No, I've been.
That's my baby.
I'm dying.
That's my baby.
We're going at it at 110%.
I just want 5 minutes of happiness, please. Just give me 5 minutes.
And they scored. They did it.
Left, beat left.
What the hell was that?
Oh yeah. What the fuck are you talking about?
Happy Monday night, everyone. This is the Sports Hound, exclusively on A2DRadio.com. I'm Rob Brakeman. He's Brad Ryer. Frank Vesby is producing the show. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, Twitch, Instagram. You miss anything here on A2D Radio, download this podcast form wherever you get your podcast, Spreaker, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, iTunes. Takeover Talk, A2D Raiders everywhere. A million ways to listen. Likes, comments, subscribe, share. You know what to do at this point. Each and every Monday, the Sports Hounds is brought to you by our doc. Make him yours too, Dr. Paul Vidal. 2 convenient locations in Burlington and Cherry Hill. He's A2D Radio's doc. Make him yours too. Also brought to you by Body Check Wellness, a line of products that promote wellness, balance, and recovery by using the full potentials of hemp. They come in extracts, blends, gummies, and topicals. Use promo code A2D, 20% off your order. Now, a lot of people think that I'm relishing being on the air tonight after the disaster, the absolute embarrassment that was the Philadelphia 76ers last night at home, favored in a Game 7, and they spit the bit. They were gutless. They played like a bunch of cowards. Preferably Ben Simmons played like a bunch of cowards. The bench was non-existent. Doc Rivers was awful. It's a dark day for Philadelphia sports. This is a huge, huge black eye for this franchise. To lose on purpose for all those years and still not even be able to get past where the Andre Iguodala flawed teams got is really, really, really embarrassing. Because you had a guy that perpetrated this process that everyone just falls in love with because I don't even know why. This nerd, this loser, Scam Hinkie, his name's Sam Hinkie, but he'll always be Scam Hinkie in my book, told me that the only way to win championships in this league was to lose a bunch of games, basically on purpose, and get a lot of draft picks and accumulate talent that way. It hasn't worked. You have Joel Embiid, who's all-world. He's a tremendous talent. Now, it's extremely frustrating that he pulled a little bit of a Houdini disappearing act in the second half of games 4 and 5, and it's disappointing that he's got an injury history longer than pretty much anyone in the league, but he did his job. It's not about Joe tonight. It's about this process that is just flawed, and it's not the way you build champions. It's not the way you build a championship basketball team. Now, for me, the process started on draft night. You trade Drew Holiday for Nerlens Noel. That didn't work. You have the Markelle Fultz embarrassment. You get Sam Hinkie out of there, and then you get Colangelo in, and he can't get it done. Ben Simmons, who's a total stiff, he's the crux of the problems here in Philadelphia, if you ask me. He's part of our poll question, which we'll get to in a minute, but it's really just a black eye for the city of Philadelphia, Brad. Last night, this series should not have happened.
It shouldn't have gone. It shouldn't have gone 7 games. I mean, the Sixers have more talent than the Hawks. They really should have won. But the problem is, other than Embiid, nobody else stepped up and made shots. And when your point guard is afraid to shoot, that just makes the problem even worse. And he is right now, Ben Simmons is the problem with the team. I mean, he is the reason you lost. I mean, the perfect example was when he has a slam dunk and he's worried about, I might get fouled. And doesn't just dunk the ball with authority, and then he goes and passes it off to Tybalt, and he ends up getting fouled, and he makes 1 out of 2 anyway. I mean, you can't be that afraid to go to the foul line. I mean, he ran it when the lights shine brightest. He ran away. I mean, listen, if you guys lost the way Brooklyn lost, where they left it all on the floor, and unfortunately, just a little bad luck for Durant that his toe just barely touched the 3-point line, and they would have won. You can accept losing like that if you're Brooklyn, okay? But as far as the Sixers are concerned, and the Bucks are an excellent team. The Sixers should have beaten Atlanta. I'm really surprised that happened. Really am. I mean that just shouldn't have happened. I mean, they seem to play well in spurts. They just didn't put 9 innings together, and that shouldn't happen.
That brings us to our poll question. Our poll question brought to you tonight by the Sunrise Detox Center. If you need counseling or mental health therapy, contact the mental health professionals at Sunrise Detox, 856-651-8117. Tell them A2D Radio sent you. Tell them Tom Arnone sent you. The Philadelphia 76ers should trade Ben Simmons. I'm interested to see where you stand on this.
Well, to me, there's two lines of thought here. Okay, the pro is if you trade him, you'll get him off the team. But the problem is, the con is that he's still owed $137 million, which means it's a big contract that they have to move. And I don't know how many teams in the league really can afford to bring somebody like him in. If you do trade him, you're going to get somebody else's problem. I had suggested on Facebook earlier this morning, maybe they could trade him for a guy like, say, John Wall. And you hope John Wall stays healthy. And he can hit a big shot when he needs to because he's a very good shooter. He's the kind of player you could get. But I just don't know that you're going to get full value for a guy like him. And he's still young at 25. Now, there's also the thought if you keep him, you could put him at power forward and try to bring in a decent point guard to help lead the team. I mean, those are the two. If you keep him, you can't let him run the team and be the point guard. You got to move him to a different position.
The problem with the power forward, Brad, the power forward theory, Brad, is that he doesn't engage off the ball. I mean, in these playoffs, he barely engaged when he was the focal point of the offense, being the primary ball handler, but he's not interested in playing off the ball. And the sad part is, I think he thinks he played good.
Oh, I don't.
I think his head is so big and his head is so far up his ass. I think Ben Simmons thinks he played okay. He played good enough for the Sixers to win in this series.
He can't think that when he scored 4 points in Game 7. And didn't shoot the fourth quarter the last 3 or 4 games.
Look, Ben Simmons is a different cat, Brad. We talk about some of these guys that march their own drummers. Sometimes it works, like Terrell Owens. He marched to the beat of his own drum. He was very successful.
Yeah, but Terrell Owens was never afraid to get the ball and try to make the most of it. That he wasn't afraid of that. Ben Simmons just seems like once the spotlight's on him, he's afraid to shoot. And he just gets rid of the ball too fast. I mean, you can't play like that. You got to go out there. You got to go out there and play. I mean, you just can't do that.
Brad, I nearly put my foot through my television screen when he passed up that dunk.
For everybody to think that you were rooting for them to lose just so that you could be right.
I almost put my foot through the screen when he passed up that dunk, and then Thibault goes to the line and makes 1 and 2. Like, on what planet is that a good basketball play?
That's a terrible. But that was a terrible basketball play. See, the problem is, I don't know if you can trade him. He's making 30. He's got another $37 million a year, right? Something like that. It's got to be something like that. I think he's owed $147 million for the next 4 years.
Yeah, he signed it's not a super max deal, but the max amount of money he was available to get. The Sixers.
But who's going to take him at that price?
I don't know, but he can't be on this bad. I agree to the poll. The Sixers should trade Ben Simmons. He cannot be on this basketball team.
I agree too.
He cannot be on this basketball team next year. I don't care if you have to take a step back and be maybe like a 6 or 7 seed because you get such a diminished return. Because Joe's going to get his knee cut. He's probably, who knows if he's going to be ready for the start of the season next year. I don't know. I don't know how bad his meniscus is torn. I don't know what the recovery process is for. I would imagine he needs to get. Maybe he doesn't need surgery. What do I know? I'm not a doctor. I thought he would never play a game the rest of the year, but he certainly proved me wrong. And I am very proud of Joe for playing because he's probably one of the only people who aren't the problem here in Philadelphia.
He gave his heart and soul to that team.
It's a shame we only have 2 hours to talk about what gutless frauds that this team is, that this franchise is.
Whenever you are upset in a series, it's a bad look. I mean, it's a bad look. I mean, listen, if the Hawks go on to win an NBA championship, then maybe you don't feel as bad about losing. But you know what? Right now, I can't imagine that they're going to match up all that well against Milwaukee. Milwaukee has the kind of team that can really take advantage of the Hawks because they can get down low with Giannis, and then Lopez can beat you with those outside shots. You know, it's a tough. That's a real tough matchup for the Hawks. I don't know if they can beat Milwaukee.
I would be utterly shocked if the Milwaukee Bucks don't win the entire championship.
Yeah, I would too. They're a good team.
I know the Suns are kind of like the flavor of the month out west, but
they
Chris Paul
can score, and they can score, and
Booker.
Yeah, I mean, they're a very good team. The Suns. I just don't know the Bucks. To me, I mean, they look really good. I mean, how many teams could bounce back after having a team hit a shot with 1 second to go and a really hard shot where the guy Durant was covered like a blanket and he somehow made that shot? I mean, that was an incredible shot, and he was mad because he didn't get his feet behind the 3-point line. You know, instead of sitting there being happy, thank God I tied it up and got it to overtime.
Yeah,
you know? I mean, that's the kind of competitor he is. And then you look at Simmons, and it's like, do you think Simmons would ever even think about taking a shot like that?
No, he'd be too scared.
Right. That's the problem. I mean, honestly, you would be better off, and I know this might be a little bit insulting, but you'd be better off getting the guy from the Celtics. Who's that guy from the Celtics that got traded to the Clippers?
Kemba Walker?
No, not Kemba Walker. Before Rondo.
Rondo?
You would have been better off with a guy like him. At least he'd shoot.
He'd probably miss, but he would shoot.
He would shoot. Oh, I mean, if you had Kemba Walker, Kemba Walker would be a perfect fit. But I mean, I don't know that. I mean, that might be a guy that the Sixers see. That's the kind of guy.
Well, that's one of the teams that I have my eye on in these, because Ben Simmons, he can't be on this team. He can't be on this team next year.
That's the kind of trade that you actually could make, because I mean, he's
like the Thunder aren't keeping Kemba Walker.
Yeah,
they're going to trade him for a younger guy.
Yeah, he's aging, and the Thunder are years away, and they have to build. And Ben won't have to worry about the whole world coming down on his head every time he refuses to shoot. You know, and maybe over the summer he can actually he can actually practice and learn to shoot. Learn to shoot a mid-range shot. A pull-up. Something like that. I mean, as far as three-point shooting, it's going to take him years to ever get.
He'll never. He's not interested.
Yeah, he's
not interested. But that's why I'm looking at the Oklahoma City Thunder, Brad. Like, I'm trading Ben for Kemba Walker.
You might be able to.
Because Kemba Walker, he's not staying in Oklahoma City. They have 1 million first-round picks. They have a good 2-guard in Shai Alexander out of Kentucky, who really, really stepped up and looks like he's going to be quite a player in this league. And you have a backcourt of Ben Simmons and Alexander.
It's either him or John Wall. I mean, it's got to be one or the other, because financially, those are the only two guys that make sense. And also, they're the only two guys that might be able to work it out with Embiid and put him over the top. I actually think John Wall might be a better fit, because John Wall is an excellent shooter. But obviously his problems are the health. But you know what? Once he got healthy in Houston, he played pretty well. I mean, I know it was an awful team, and maybe you take that with a grain of salt. But John Wall can play still.
I agree with you.
You put him on the Sixers. He's got a nice pull up. He can definitely shoot from 3. But that's the kind of guy you're going to get for Ben Simmons. Because remember, it's got to be money. You can't just go ahead and trade him and expect to get younger players or anything like that. you're going to get another team's player that is basically baggage to them, and those would be the two players that I would keep my eye out on as somebody who would watch the NBA and think, where would the Sixers go?
But like, I would take draft picks for him. I don't even need a player.
Yeah, but if somebody gives them draft picks, they still have to bring in.
I understand.
$37 million out a year. I mean, are you allowed to absorb somebody's contract to let them?
I don't know. That's more your department. The
salary. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know about. Yeah, I mean, I don't know the basketball. I know the hockey rules, but I don't really know the basketball rules as far as trade. I know in hockey, you can, if you trade somebody, you can keep 50% of the salary off your cap if the other team agrees to it. In other words, if the Flyers traded Giroux, okay, because they wanted to get him off the team, okay, and he makes $8 million a year, okay, the Flyers could keep $4 million of the salary and then get a really good deal because now it's not such a big money move. I just don't know if you're allowed to do that in the NBA. Somebody might be able to let us know, because I don't know if you're allowed to do that.
And then, like, Brad, I've never seen such a waste of such like a 6'10", thoroughbred, pure basketball talent. First off, I've never met any decent, let alone a max player in professional basketball, not want to score, not want to improve, not want to get any better. Just like status quo. I'm good enough. No one else. I don't have to do anything else. I'm an all-star. I don't have to, like, I don't understand. It's a shame how big of a waste of a talent Ben Simmons is.
Well, the problem is he wasn't really coached, throughout his career. I mean, Brett Brown was not a good coach.
No.
I mean, the Sixers let him hang around to coach because he endured the process. So, when they finally got good, they almost had to at least give him a couple of years to try to win with them. So, I mean, that was kind of the problem, but he couldn't really coach up Ben Simmons. He kind of let Ben Simmons do whatever he wanted. What they really needed, they needed to have Doc Rivers back then, not now. Because at this point, I mean, Doc Rivers knows what he has. And I know a lot of people, like, it's in vogue to criticize the coach right now. But I mean, it's not his fault that Ben Simmons wouldn't shoot, or that he couldn't make a shot from the foul line. What did he go, like 15 for 45 in the playoffs this year from the foul line?
He's the statistically the worst foul shooter in the history of the NBA, with a minimum of 70 attempts at 34% in the.
So he's worse than Kim Hughes. He's worse than Wilt Chamberlain. He's worse than Shaq. Wow,
by a lot, by a lot.
Shaq was pretty bad. Kim Hughes, who used to be a New Jersey Net, by the way, tremendous defensive player. He was the white version of that crazy guy in Detroit. What was his name?
Ben Wallace.
Yeah, he was the white version. He could rebound. He could dunk, and he could rebound, but he couldn't make a shot from 2 feet away, let alone a foul shot. And that was Ben Wallace to a T. I mean, good player to have on your team if you got guys who could score. But that's what Ben has turned into, and you can't have that. I mean, listen, we saw Jason Kidd when he went from when he got traded from Houston. Was it Houston or San Antonio? I can't remember now.
No, he's the first Houston, team he was on. He was on Dallas.
Dallas, okay. So he
who did they have? They had Jamal Mashburn and someone else that was really good, and they were all banging the same girl, so they couldn't get along, so they had to blow it up. Right.
But I mean, he was not a good shooter at all with Dallas. It was pretty close to the same thing. He came to New Jersey, and he just, the Nets just told him, shoot and shoot and shoot. And you know what? He eventually finally became an acceptable shooter. But Ben Simmons has to do that. And, he's going to have to go to a losing team where he can carry the team and shoot a lot and score a lot and get his mojo back, because he clearly has lost the mojo now. I mean, and at this point, I don't think he's savable in Philly. I think the pressure of playing on the East Coast, the pressure of playing in front of a demanding fan base, the pressure of playing on a championship level team that are expected to go all the way. I think that got to him, and now he's in a very bad place. So yeah, you do. I think you almost have to get rid of him. But there are guys you can get for him. But the kind of guys I mentioned, that's what you're looking at. You're not going to get like Luka Doncic or any of those kind of guys.
No shot.
No. And I saw somebody in Facebook this morning in our group mentioned him for Stephon. Come on, guys. Steph Curry is not going to get traded for Ben Simmons. Are you kidding me? I mean, you got to be realistic. That's not going to happen.
Why would Dame Lillard? He's not coming here. Like, you might be able to do a Ben Simmons for CJ McCollum swap. Maybe. Even though CJ McCollum doesn't excite me that much, he excites me a whole heck of a lot more than Ben Simmons does.
See, the thing is, Rob, you got to make sure first of all, it's a money thing, because whoever takes him is got to have a lot of room under the cap, and that's a problem because of the amount of money he makes. So, the Sixers are going to have to. They're going to have to accept a big contract back in order to make a deal to do that. Or they may have to sweeten it up and throw some draft picks in there to get somebody to do a trade like that. I'm
done. I don't need draft picks.
No, not.
I have no use. I have no use for draft picks. I picked two good guys in the last two drafts with Maxey, who I think is going to be a star in this league. Maybe forced to play a little too much because of the Danny Green injury and Ben's ineffectiveness off the bat, and he struggled a little bit, but I think the future's bright for Tyrese Maxey. I'm a big Matisse Thybulle fan. I think he's going to be a key role player on this team for a lot of years.
He will be, but I think you're right. They did lean on him a little too much.
Maxey, I think Thybulle should start. I said Thybulle should start.
Well, they seem to put Korkmaz in there all the time, didn't they?
Well, I don't know if Korkmaz is going to be back on the team. He's a free agent. Danny Green's a free agent, which I do want to talk about the coach because a lot of people are criticizing the coach today, and I'm one of them. Doc Rivers had a horrendous postseason. He didn't coach well against the Washington Wizards, but the Sixers were able to outclass the Washington Wizards. They beat him in 5 games. And he didn't coach a good series in Atlanta. I don't understand the Sixers' offensive strategy last night. Joel Embiid touched the ball 30 feet away from the basket. That's where Joel Embiid at the three-point line was the focal point of the offense last night. Every time down the floor, every half-court set, it was Joe at the three-point line.
He was outside way too much. That's a guy you want to get down to the low post and draw fouls. That was a little odd. I do think they missed Green though. I think that was a much bigger deal than what people may have thought. I think that was a big deal. His veteran leadership. The veteran leadership would have really helped.
With the Danny Green injury, the whole ecosystem of the bench and the starting lineup was disrupted. Because now you got to start a guy like Korkmaz or Thybulle, which they haven't done all year, and it disrupts the fact that, statistically speaking, in the regular season, the starting 5 of the 76ers was one of the best in the NBA, maybe the best. And then without Danny Green, the team just didn't work. And then to get back to Doc, Danny Green had a telling quote today that they said that Sixers, they maybe look past the Hawks a little bit. In anticipation for a showdown with Milwaukee or Brooklyn, which that's coaching. If that's being permeated throughout the locker room, that's coaching. It's Doc's job to say, we got to forget about the Bucks and the Nets, and we got to beat the Hawks. So that's coaching. So the offensive strategy, the fact that it's being suggested by a veteran like Danny Green that maybe the Sixers look past the Hawks a little bit, that's unacceptable. And even though Doc Rivers is still a 20 times better coach than Brett Brown, he has his flaws. His one championship in Boston with the original super team, the original 3 with Ray Allen, Garnett, Paul Pierce, and they had tremendous role players like Rondo, who they found, and Perkins and Glenn Big Baby Davis. An excellent team. Outside of that, it's been a lot of disappointment for Doc Rivers in the playoffs. As favorites.
Absolutely.
So I can certainly see why.
I'm not going to sit and blame this series on. I mean, the fact that they came out, game one really, to me, was the big issue because that was inexcusable to go down.
No, Doc would be third on my hit list today.
Yeah, to fall down 27 points to Atlanta, and they almost won the game anyway. But I mean, to go down 27 points, that should never have happened. I mean, how do you play so poorly in game one to put yourself in a position where all of a sudden now you have to win game two, and then you win game three, and it looks like you got complete control. You have a double-digit lead in game four at halftime. Things are looking like it's going to be a quick series, and then you let them back in the game again, and then they pull it out. I mean, they asked for it. You know, they saved themselves in game six, and then you figure, okay, now they have the home court advantage for game seven, and for whatever reason, it just didn't happen. You know, you were waiting for that run for them to get like a 10-point lead, and figure, okay, Atlanta's going to try to keep it within 10, and maybe try to make a run at the end and steal the game, but that's not what happened. You know, and that's kind of what the kind of game I was expecting was that, you know, the Sixers would have between a 6 and a 10-point lead for most of the game, and Atlanta would try to hang in there and maybe try to steal it at the end. And Atlanta wouldn't be the team that seemed to have the lead most of the second half. I mean, that was just not good. Can't let that happen.
So my hit list so far, to just recap, is the process in general, which is dead and buried. I don't want to hear any more about the process. Scam Hinkie and Harris and Colangelo, they're all a bunch of loser frauds that told this fan base, hoodwinked this fan base into thinking that losing on purpose, winning 10 fucking games a year and being the laughingstock of the NBA was the only way to win championships. So that's fantastic. You did that. You were an embarrassment to Philadelphia. You were an embarrassment to the NBA. You were an embarrassment to the game of basketball for what, 5 years? Just to get to here, just to lose in the second round every year? That's absolutely unacceptable. That's a systemic organizational failure because that's not the way you build championships, losing on purpose. It's a bunch of nonsense. And the process started when Drew Holiday, a really good point guard, was traded for a total draft bust in Nerlens Noel. I know he's on your team and he's found a nice role in this league, but he was picked
He's a backup center role player.
He's picked sixth overall in the draft.
But he's a good backup center or a role player center. He's not an all-star by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, you traded a perennial all-star in Drew Holiday for a total bust in Ben Simmons. You roll that into, you pick Joe, but he's always injured. He's a great player, but he's always injured. You had the whole Markelle Fultz disaster. Jahlil Okafor was –
What about the point guard that you guys picked, too, during that whole thing and then ended up trading him to Milwaukee? At the beginning Remember the point guard that you got that used to shoot all the time? He used to average 20 points a game. I just can't remember his name.
Who? Michael Carter Williams?
Yeah, that's the guy. Yeah. That guy.
I mean, he was a rookie of the year, but he was kind of fugazi rookie of the year. I mean, it was a weak draft class, and he didn't really do anything when he left Philly.
You draft him, and then 2 years later, he was probably the best guy on the team, and then they trade him.
Yeah, so but he was a stiff.
Yeah, but I mean, what did you get for him?
I don't even remember. Not much.
I mean, he wasn't really a stiff when he was with the Sixers. After the Sixers traded him, he turned.
Yeah, but Brad, these guys in the process in those years, I mean, they won 10 games a year.
Yeah, no,
there was plenty of touches to go around. So marginal players who stunk were averaging 20 a night. You understand what I'm saying?
Yep, and they picked the kid. They picked the kid from Duke who was a bum.
Jahlil Okafor was a complete disaster.
And you're right. I mean, it just seemed like every first round pick that they had, they screwed up. They kept screwing up the picks.
And then you want to get you have a team that a core set up to really do something when you trade for Jimmy Butler. And unfortunately, they fall short in Toronto with the heroic shot by Kawhi Leonard. But then, you pay the wrong guy. If you have Jimmy Butler on this basketball team last night, the Sixers are in the Eastern Conference Finals. I totally believe that. Because Jimmy Butler would have taken over that basketball game and willed the Sixers to victory along with Joel Embiid.
Oh, I agree with you 100%.
Joe would have ruled inside. Jimmy Butler would have ruled on the perimeter. Not to mention Jimmy Butler plays damn good defense as well. Which leads you to your other problem, Tobias Harris. He's a $170 million max player. He ain't worth $170 million. It's a bad contract.
Unfortunately, at this point, they've got a couple of bad contracts on their team, and they're going to have to. I mean, listen, they're able to get rid of Horford, which to me was a good move. But they've still got some work to do. They're going to have to listen. There's definitely a chance that they can turn around and they can turn things around next season. But their front office has some work to do, and unfortunately,
I don't know what you do, because I don't know. I don't see how you bring Ben Simmons back, because he's problem number 2 with this team. Problem number 2 is Ben Simmons. I don't see how you bring him back, but he might have to come back, because now Doc Rivers is saying that he's got a plan to fix his shot. He's not playing on Team Australia in the Olympics. I saw a report from Brian Windhorst today that he's going to try and change to a right-handed dominant shooter instead of a left-handed dominant shooter.
What?
What? Yeah, it's a total mess. It's a disaster.
That sounds like a total disaster. That sounds like some of the things Wilt Chamberlain used to do at the foul line, Rob. Where he used to try shooting. He used to try shooting from one side, try shooting from another side. He tried underhand. He took a couple of steps back from the line. All kinds of crazy things to fix his foul shooting. He never tried left-handed, because you got to go with your dominant hand. If you're left-handed, then you're left-handed. You can't do that.
But if you do trade Ben Simmons, you're not getting value for him, and you need to prepare to maybe be a 4, 5, 6, 7 seed in next year's playoffs.
Well, if you trade Ben Simmons, okay, you're going to get another team's contract problem. Now, the question is, if you
look at the East, hold on, let's look at the East for a second. Brooklyn's got all 3 of their guys coming back.
Right.
They're not going anywhere.
And they'll probably sign a couple of free agents, not expensive ones, because they don't have much room under the cap.
Yeah, all the guys that want to win aren't going to come to the Sixers. Aren't coming to the Sixers like Dwight Howard did. They're going to go to Brooklyn. They're going to go to Milwaukee. They're going to go to, I don't know, Utah or Phoenix or one of them teams out there.
Listen, Rob, they might even go to the Knicks. I mean, the Knicks have a lot of room under the salary cap. They now have a legitimate all-star in Randle. Randle's gonna need some help.
What would your reaction be if the Knicks somehow acquired Ben Simmons? Because you guys need a point guard.
Yeah, I'd be kind of disgusted with that, to be honest with you. I don't want him. I don't want him anywhere near the team. As I said, if I'm going to acquire a point guard, I would try getting Lonzo Ball, because he's a restricted free agent, and I would try like hell to make New Orleans as uncomfortable as they can in trying to re-sign him. And if that didn't work, then I would be trying maybe to get a guy, bringing Kemba Walker, or again another one like John Wall maybe. I would try. I want a guy who could shoot. You can't have a guy that can't shoot be your point guard.
Kemba's from the Bronx, I think, right?
Yes, he is. But I mean, I don't know. He's never shown that he wanted to be a Knick, though. He's had his chances a couple of times.
Well, there's no way he wants to be in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, no, probably not.
And Oklahoma City's not keeping him.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, I just saw Robert California's offer Ben Simmons for R.J. Barrett. They're not going to do that. If R.J. Barrett gets traded, the only way they would trade him is if they're going to get a superstar point guard. Whether it's part of a ball trade or maybe try. I mean, I've heard rumors that Doncic can't stand Porzingis and wants to get the hell out of Dallas, and he would like to go to New York. But with the Knicks luck, he'd want to go to the Nets and not the Knicks. So
would you trade Ben Simmons for Kristaps Porzingis?
So that might be a guy you could get.
I would do that trade.
Yeah, I think.
And then I think the New Orleans Pelicans are also a mess. They're a team to watch this offseason as well because there's rumors that Zion, the people that surround Zion, his family,
Zion does in fact want to play for the Knicks. He's actually mentioned that several times. But
his family wants him out of there because they don't get like the owner. That's the rumor.
Right. He supposedly does want to play in New York, except the problem is I think he's got 3 more years on his contract there. So that would be the Knicks would basically have to the Knicks could trade for him because they have certainly enough young assets, but I mean that would probably take Barrett, Robinson, and probably their 3 first-round draft choices over the next 3 years to get that done.
So I don't know what you do with Ben. I've never seen anything. It's a shame because he's probably the biggest waste of talent I've ever seen in my 31 years of watching basketball.
If you're a team that's trying to build a championship and you've got a couple of guys on, he's not the one that's going to put you over the top. That's the problem. He still has to develop. He has to develop a jump shot. If he doesn't develop a jump shot, he's of no use to really any championship type team. He'd be a good player on a bad team, but right now on a good team like the Sixers, he's a liability. You can't have your point guard being taken out of the game with 5 minutes to go because you're afraid that he's going to get fouled and he's going to kill you with the foul line. You just can't. He's not Shaquille O'Neal. Okay, Shaquille O'Neal was an unstoppable force. And I know they used to foul him all the time, but you know what? He would make 1 out of 2 almost every time. So I mean, he'd still be a factor. Plus, he was great defensively as well. He clogged the middle. They're in a tough spot with him, but you know what? They'll figure it out. I really do think that the Sixers will figure out the right move. There's going to be some guys on the move. There are other teams with bad contracts, and you'll see some guys get traded. But that's what you're going to end up getting. The thing is, if you can get the right guy, it's just getting the right guy. To be honest with you, that's really what they need to do. Bob Brinkman thinking maybe a forward. I mean, I thought maybe a power forward might be the right move for him if you can't get rid of him.
You can't be a forward in the NBA and not attack. You can't.
Yeah, but if he's given the ball underneath the basket, he can always try to dunk it or try to change his role and be a rebounder and a dunker.
But he's scared. He's scared of contact because he can't shoot foul shots, and he's not interested in practicing his foul shots. He's not interested in becoming a better player. He's disinterested.
Well, you know what's going to end up happening? Well, he got his money. That's the problem.
Number 3, Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers was horrible this postseason. Still a better coach than Brett Brown, but Doc Rivers' offensive strategy in Game 7 was piss poor. Embiid was not under the basket enough. It was a total joke. Schematic-wise, the Sixers were kind of dead from Jump Street. And Doc Rivers, I mean, he's got the worst record in NBA history in Game 7s as an NBA head coach. He's blown Game 7 after Game 7 with the better team. So he's got a lot of explaining to do as well. He's got egg on his face, and Doc Rivers is not going anywhere. He's 1 year into a massive 5-year contract, and the Sixers aren't going to pay him the next 4 years to do nothing if they fire him. So Doc Rivers is here. So you got to trade Ben. I don't know.
I've seen some of the suggestions that are popping. I see some pretty good suggestions. The one I can't remember who it was, but one of the gentlemen came in with do a sign and trade with Toronto for Kyle Lowry. That could have James Jackson. Thank you, James. I like that. I like that line of thinking. Kyle Lowry, sign Kyle Lowry, and trade for Simmons. That's something.
Yeah, because you can afford to bring on an aging guy like Lowry.
You can bring him in for 1 year and try to win a championship next year.
And you let Maxey kind of fill in for 1 more year, and then kind of hand the point guard position over to Maxey. Plus, if the age wise, and Kyle Lowry is not what he once was. I mean, he's I think 33, 34 years old.
Yeah,
so,
but he can knock down a shot.
Yeah, but my point is, you can probably still get Kyle Lowry and something for Ben Simmons.
Maybe and maybe not. I mean, I don't know what I don't know.
It stinks because Ben really backed him into a corner, Brad. Ben really backed this franchise into a corner. Because he can't come back. You can't have him on this basketball team next year.
No. But you know what? I do think that idea with Toronto is not a bad idea because that's the kind of team that Ben could go to and maybe settle down and learn how to shoot. I mean, that's a team that's going to be out of contention for a while. The fans are happy because they got their championship a couple of years ago. That might be a place for him to go. I mean, there are a few places he could land, but they're going to have to be in a bad team. That's the thing, and I guess Toronto would have to decide what it is they wanted to do and what Kyle Lowry wants to do.
So we talked about the process and how it's the biggest con job in professional sports history.
What about a guy like DeMar DeRozan?
Anybody, Brad, I'll take anybody. I'm not the biggest DeMar DeRozan fan because he's like a mid-range guy in a league where it's either you got to dunk the basketball or shoot a three-pointer. But I'll take anybody. Anybody.
But he can nail a shot though.
I would trade Ben Simmons for a singular mid-round first-round pick. And just try and use my scouting that's been good the last two drafts. Good scouting the last two drafts. Matisse and Maxey, I think they're going to be good players. So I trust this front office with Morey and Elton Brand to find guys in the draft. So if you can only get draft picks for Ben Simmons, I'm doing that as well.
No,
I don't even need a player.
You'll do better than that because again,
I don't know about that, Brad. I really don't.
You can't take in a $37 million contract without getting rid of somebody.
Some teams can because Scam Hinkie made it okay for these teams that are out of contention to just lose on purpose. Oklahoma City's not paying anybody. They're not paying anybody. You can take one or two of their first-round draft picks because they have a bunch of first-round draft picks because Sam Presti is just accumulating assets left and right, and they can pay them, and they can have a pretty good backcourt with Simmons and Alexander.
But that wouldn't make any sense. They just got rid of a high salary guy in Horford. Now I know they brought in Kemba,
but Ben's still 25. Horford's what, 35, 36?
Horford's a backup center too. Well, he was a starting center there, but I mean, if you're trying to get Kemba Walker, that might be a trade that you might be able to do.
But like the Spurs, who are the Spurs paying
now?
Yeah, no one.
Yeah, they could probably do that at this. They could probably do that.
What are the Spurs going to have? The 10th pick in the draft? I think the lottery's tomorrow.
Yeah,
figure out. So. I would trade Ben Simmons for the 10th overall pick. I would trade him to San Antonio for the 10th overall pick.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think if you put him with Pop, I do think that might be that could be a match made in heaven because Pop will coach him up. And they'll either make him or break him in San Antonio because
Ben Simmons for Kristaps Porzingis. That's a trade I would do. Straight up, done. See ya.
Yeah, and the money would probably work too. So
you put a stretch four. You put a solid stretch four next to Joe. Maybe you bring in a veteran point guard in free agency. Maybe you draft another point guard, and maybe you let Maxey start.
But you don't have to make Joe play so many minutes. If you have Porzingis in there, he could play. He could play the four, and then when Joe goes to take a rest, you could put him in at the five.
Yeah, but if Joe's 100% healthy, he's a 30, 35, 38 minute guy.
Okay. What about defensively? Who do you think is better? I mean, as a shot blocker, I think Porzingis might be better as a shot blocker, to be honest.
Joe's pretty good rim protector. And Joe's pretty.
I mean, Porzingis was a good rim protector with the Knicks. I haven't seen enough of him in Dallas.
Joe's a better athlete than Porzingis. The lateral quickness Joel Embiid has at his size is unbelievable. He's a really good.
Porzingis has the same type of thing. He's not as tough as Embiid. Embiid is a tough guy. I mean, if you try to go down low with him and body him and you try to throw your weight around, nobody's going to do that with him.
There's a lot of comments flying in. We're going to get through. I got 5. I had 2 more things I got to get off my chest about this team. Next one, we talked about Doc stinking. We talked about Ben stinking. And we talked about the process stinking. Brad, the Sixers bench was putrid this postseason, preferably in the Hawks series. I mean, Dwight Howard gave you nothing. Maxey didn't play well in Game 7, even though he played well in Game 6. Danny Green was out. Thibault didn't give you much. Like, Korkmaz, I don't think is that good. I don't think he's going to be back on the team. He's going to be a free agent. He'll probably get overpaid by someone because that's what happens with everybody who hits free agency in the NBA. So you need to do something to shake up this bench. Speaking of Shake Milton, he was a complete no-show last night. George Hill, who I thought was a genius guy to bring in, a veteran transporter of the basketball, a point guard. I mean, that guy's a total stiff. He can get off my team too. Like, George Hill gave you nothing this postseason, absolutely nothing, except turnovers and agita. So you have Joe and Tobias, who's okay, and you don't really have anything past that. So the depth of this team going forward is
Seth Curry did a nice job.
He did.
I thought he was one of their best players. I thought he was the second best player on the team for the most
I don't think can he start at shooting guard on a championship team? I don't think he can. I think he's a bench guy who can come in and light it up.
If you have the right guys around him, he probably could.
It's a fair point.
He's not going to hurt you. He's a good shooter. He's not afraid to shoot.
No, he's not.
He's a nice wing player. I mean, ideally, he's a nice guy to come off the bench, but you're not really getting hurt too badly by starting him. You just, as long as you have a forward that can make up for it. I mean, I think that the other disappointment, as you said, was what's his name, the guy you guys got from the Clippers,
Tobias Harris.
Tobias Harris, yeah, I think he was a big problem. I mean, he's a guy that should have been able to.
I mean, he ends up going 9 for 24 last night. I think he had 24 points, and he also had 14 rebounds. But I mean, my God, he missed a lot of layups.
Yeah, but if he's 9 for 24, that's not efficient scoring.
No, and he should have been 15 for 24 because I bet you he missed 5-6 layups.
Yeah, if he was 16 for 24, that would have been another story. But 9 for 24 is that's not good. That's 3 for 8. That's 37% shooting. That's not good enough. I mean that was part of the problem. I think it all relies on the fact that they're going to have to upgrade their point guard situation offensively. And just keep playing good defense, but they're going to have to do a little bit more offensively with their point guard situation. You can't let it all fall on Joel Embiid.
But the frustrating thing,
no team's going to win. You're not going to win. You're not going to win with one player anymore. I mean, it's not like the old days where you could put Kareem Abdul-Jabbar on the Milwaukee Bucks and he with a 100-year-old Oscar Robertson and you're going to win a championship. You need a lot more than that.
Tommy Arnone's in the house. Bryce Blackwell's in the house. Sean Michael Carmichael is in the house. He says Ben's untradeable right now. Tom Arnone, tough times. Yeah, it is tough times. I feel bad for the fans, so to speak, that were fooled and thought this team was going to go to the finals. I was one of them for a while, but as soon as a horse can't win, you take it out back and you shoot him right between the eyes, Brad. And the second Joel Embiid got hurt, it's just here we go again. I've seen this act way before. Second round exit. See you later. No Eastern Conference Finals for this team.
Nobody. The only one that stepped up was Seth Curry. Let's be honest. He stepped up. He played a pretty good game for the most part. I mean, there were several games that he was very effective as your 3-point shooter, but the rest of the guys did not step up, and that can't happen.
Bryce Blackwell the thing with the process is it should have been 1-2 years max. Other teams have tanked for picks. Yeah, everyone had, but it was like a 5-6 year thing here in Philadelphia. It was a total joke. And like everyone bought into it. Oh, winless for Wiggins. Whatever player you want. Markel Fultz, Jaleel Okafor. It was just an embarrassment, really, that this fan base, who's a smart fan base, a smart, passionate fan base, fell for the con job that was the process, hook, line, and sinker. And now it's like 10 years later, and you're still not better than the Andre Iguodala teams of the world.
Yeah, and you're not getting a lottery pick in the draft anymore. Now you have to pick. Now you have to pick with the big boys. I mean, you can still get good players, but it makes the degree of difficulty a little bit bigger. As I said, they'll be able to get rid of Simmons, but if they get rid of Simmons, they're going to have to take back somebody else's problem child. That's basically it. It's somebody.
You got to make something. All I hear about is how smart of a guy Daryl Morey is, how good of a GM he is. Spotlight's on, Daryl. You got to get this guy out of town. He can't be in your locker room next year. Can't. Ralphie Delavecchio, no value for Simmons right now. Looks like you guys are stuck with him. I think someone will bite.
Yeah,
someone will bite. Someone will bite.
Sending him to San Antonio, that might be something because you've got a Hall of Fame coach down there that might be able to get something out of him. I mean that's always a possibility. Maybe you do the sign and trade and you get DeMar DeRozan and you get him up here. I mean, he would definitely help. He's a good shooter, and I think he'd be able to distribute the ball. Probably would be a good fit for Embiid. You'd be looking at a guy that probably could give you 14 to 16 points a night.
Mike Marshall, don't forget where we were before the process. We were in the same place. We're in the same place, losing in the second round every year.
Yeah,
you're in purgatory.
You're in the exact.
And they took a chance on Bynum to try and get themselves out of purgatory, and it blew up in their face because Andrew Bynum was a crumb and he got hurt and had no interest in coming back. You're in the same spot right now. Atlanta's not going anywhere. Milwaukee's not going anywhere. Brooklyn's not going anywhere.
No,
so
you're gonna
right off the bat, unless I'm missing someone, you're the fourth best team in the East.
And you're still going to be contending with the Knicks because they're going to be getting better. You're going to have to worry. You're also going to have to figure out that the Miami Heat will figure it out next year. I don't think they're going to have 2 bad years in a row.
Boston has Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I know they got some turnover in their front office, but Brad Stevens is a smart guy. And I don't know what he's doing up there with these roster moves, but
I think he's trying to create some. I think he's trying to create some cap space.
Yeah, but why do I think that Boston's up to something with that trade, which didn't really make any sense?
Well, they did what the Sixers did with Horford. They got rid of him to get some cap space. So I mean now
they have Horford back.
Yeah, but Horford. I think they also feel like Horford can. Horford was always good against Ben Simmons against Embiid. Maybe they're still looking at it that way.
Not a bad point because they didn't have any big guys this year.
He's sort of useful for them, but I still think he was clearing out cap space. Kemba Walker had a really bad contract. I mean, he's making a fortune right now.
He also didn't have the best year.
No, what did he shoot? Like he shot under 40%.
Well, he's got the knee issues now, and he makes a lot of money. So maybe they were just done with him. I was surprised they gave up the 16th pick in the draft in that trade as well.
Yeah,
that was the puzzling factor.
I think they wanted him out.
Clearly, Bryce Blackwell, y'all better trade him. Go get Bradley Beal, Dame Lillard, etc.
With what?
How are you going to get Dame Lillard or Bradley Beal? Let's look at it logically. Like no one's just gonna hand the Sixers a max player for a guy who's scared to shoot the basketball, who's scared to score, who's scared to get better, who's scared to be in the big moment. You're not getting those guys. It's just not. Tom Arnone, they should trade him, but they won't. He can't be on the team next year, Tommy. He can't. He absolutely cannot be on this basketball team.
I think they will. I think they will eventually trade him.
Maybe you can get some more clarity on who like. Because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the draft lottery is tomorrow. So you'll get some clarity on the draft order.
It's this week. I know that, right?
I'm pretty sure it's tomorrow.
Okay.
Durant, best player in the league. That's from Pete Evans. Blue Empire Sports. Get JJ Redick back to the Sixers. JJ Redick stinks. He's a one-trick pony who's 38 years old. Like, come on.
JJ Redick.
Blue City Empire Sports, be better than that, please. It's a dumb comment.
Is he still playing?
JJ Redick does nothing to get you over the hump. Absolutely nothing.
Maybe off the bench.
The Sixers bench is a disaster, and I couldn't be less interested in JJ Redick, even with the Sixers bench struggles. Kevin Durant's the best player in the league.
Here's an interesting name for you, Rob. Okay, and I don't know how much you thought of him, but what about Dinwiddie?
I thought about him this morning.
I mean, he's an unrestricted free agent, so I mean, it's not like
you're gonna have to. I think it's a great fit. I think he's a good basketball player. I mean, you got to obviously check out his medical because he did tear his ACL.
Yeah, no, I realize that. I'm just saying he might. I mean, he might be a fit. I just don't know how much money he's going to get. He might
let's say you trade Ben. Let's say you trade Ben for a big guy like Porzingis, and you bring in Spencer Dinwiddie to throw in with the guards.
I mean, I'm thinking Spencer Dinwiddie can't cost more than between 10 and 15 million, can he? He's coming off a very serious injury.
Yeah, but Brad, you see it every offseason with these NBA contracts.
Yeah, but don't
monopoly money.
Wouldn't you think that he would get that he might take a 1-year deal to up his value and then try to get a max deal after that? I mean, wouldn't that be the sensible thing to do? I mean, I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess there's a couple different ways you can attack it. If you're,
I would love to have Spencer Dinwiddie for the Knicks. I think he'd be a great fit for them, and I think you might be able to give him a 1-year contract and not have to pay him all that.
See, and therein lies the issue because all these free agents, like Philadelphia, is not an attractive free agent spot right now. Like you have Joe, you have Joe who's always hurt. You have Tobias, who's one of the worst contracts in the whole league. You have Ben Simmons, who's a stiff, and then you got nothing. So am I going to go to a team that's going to lose in the second round and never get it right, or am I going to go to Brooklyn, Milwaukee to try and win a championship? Am I going to go hang out on South Beach, with Pat Riley? That's a more attractive free agent spot right now than the Sixers. The Celtics have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, 2 max caliber guys, and they just looks like they're trying to clear cap space to bring in a third guy.
Dinwiddie could fit in Boston as well.
Spencer Dinwiddie's a fantastic player. He fits anywhere.
Yeah, he's just.
And then you have your Knicks.
Serious injury. That's the only thing. And if I'm Dinwiddie, quite honestly, as a businessman, and maybe you guys will think I'm nuts for saying this, but I would sign a 1-year contract, have enough confidence in myself, sign a 1-year contract, have a big year, and then go for the money.
It's not a bad strategy.
Yeah,
not a bad strategy at all.
Listen, Boogie did it.
And then just to recap, then you got the Knicks. I think the Knicks are a more attractive free agent spot than the Philadelphia 76ers right now. You got a lot of young talent there. You have Randle and Barrett coming into their own. Derrick Rose is kind of found like
but Derrick Rose,
second life there off the bench.
Yeah, you want Derrick Rose to come in off the bench. You don't want him to be your starting go. If he's playing around 20 to 25 minutes a game, he's perfect. But if you start making him play 30 to 35 minutes, he loses a lot of effectiveness.
And then you have Atlanta.
Oh, Atlanta's not going to need. Atlanta has Trae Young. Trae Young is probably one of the
I
top
understand,
10.
but free agent I'm talking about attractive free agent destinations. Trae Young makes them an attractive free agent destination. If you're a wing player, who would you rather play with? Stinky Ben Simmons or Trae Young? Who laces up his kicks and has 15 assists in the first half.
Yeah, that's an exciting team, right? That's an exciting young team right now.
Pete Evans says Kevin Durant's the best player in the league. He's certainly one of them. What he did in that playoff series was pretty incredible.
He's in the top. He's in the top 3. I'll tell you that. I mean, it just you watch him and it's too bad he was so banged up this year because he's obviously as a player he's still got the skills to pay the bills. So I mean he's honestly if Brooklyn could have kept those guys healthy, I mean they would have been awfully tough to beat.
Yeah, but this goes back to my every time we bring up James Harden in a big spot. It's always something. Yeah, but James Harden is not the reason they lost the series. They lost the series because he got a hamstring injury and he was ineffective. He wasn't James Harden. No, but he played in his return. I understand he played. And good for him for playing, but he wasn't James Harden. No, he was. But again, he was slowed down by that hamstring injury. I understand that, but it's always something with him. Well, it's always something. At least he played, unlike Kyrie Irving, who always finds an excuse. He's another one. Kyrie Irving's never been past the second round of the playoffs without LeBron James. Right. But again, in all fairness, though, he did make the big shot to win the championship when he was with Cleveland. So I mean, he certainly has the skills as well to lead a team to a championship. With behind Kevin Durant. I mean, when they had all 3 of those guys playing against Milwaukee the first 2 games, they slaughtered them. You're right. And then unfortunately they couldn't all stay healthy. So them's the breaks. The Nets want to try to build a team with 3 30-year-olds. That's kind of what's going to happen. They're all under contract next year. Then they all have player options to leave. Right. But you know what? If they're good, I think they're going to stay. They'll all stay. But that's where I'm if I'm doing the 1 year thing, like you talked about with Spencer Dinwiddie, I'm doing it with Brooklyn. Right? Well, Spencer Dinwiddie is not going to stay in Brooklyn. And Brooklyn's not going to pay him. I can't see that happening. Yeah, but they need it. They can't play with 3 guys. They need a roster. No, listen, if God forbid they do re-sign him, I mean when Kyrie Irving takes his leave of absences, I guess you want to call them, right? When he takes his leave of absences, I guess it would be a good thing for him to be on the team. But I just and I know you can always re-sign your own players, but that's a lot of money. He's I don't know how much he's going to pay, and to be in a backup role, he's never going to make a lot of money. He's got to choose the teams that he's going to start. If he wants to make a lot of money. I just don't know that somebody's just going to pay him right off the bat to pay a lot of money for him when he's just coming back from a major knee injury. I just don't know if he has that kind of credibility in the league. I mean, do you think he does? Who's that? Dinwiddie? Yeah. He was really emerging as quite a player before his unfortunate knee injury. Yeah, I don't know. The NBA's weird, Brad. It's all on potential, and it only takes one team to fall in love with a guy, and then he gets overpaid, and he's set for life. Yeah, no, I don't know. Yeah, that's Don 19. Don 19. Who would have thought that? Who would have thought that? What's his name? That Julius Randle would become the kind of player he was. I mean that. He did what he had to do to become a big star, and I guess, Dinwiddie could do. I suppose he could. I don't know. If I were him as a businessman, I would sign a 1 year. If you're not getting a big contract, you sign a 1 year deal. You kick somebody on a team where you're going to be able to kick some ass, score a lot of points, start, and not be a backup. You don't. If he's a backup,
he's never going to be more than a $10 to $20 million player. If he starts, he could be a $20 to $30 million player. So, I mean, he's got to be very particular about where he wants to play. I mean, if you're the Knicks, do you spend $15 million on a 1-year contract for him?
I think he's worth that.
Yeah, I might do that for 1 year and see how it works out. That's if I can't get Ball or or if I fail to get choke on all the stars that are out there. He could be a viable option. I mean, there are a lot of players that are going to be free agents this year, that really good players. Now whether they don't re-sign with whether they re-sign with their team or not, they might. I mean, the odds are most of them probably will. I mean, you would think Kawhi Leonard would probably stay in LA, but you never know. He's kind of a weird duck as well. So
he also there's rumors that his knee injury is a torn ACL. So
that would be a major problem.
So I don't know. It doesn't look like he's going to play in the next game, but I mean,
well, if he's got a meniscus issue, I mean, then he's probably not going to play till.
Yeah, but he's really hurt if he's not playing because the dude's a total stud and a total gamer.
Oh yeah, no, he'd be playing in the playoffs.
So the fact that he's not playing in a Western Conference Finals game is
and you know what you got to give. How about giving a little credit to the Clippers, by the way? To get to where they are without him is pretty good. I mean,
you beat the 1 seed in the West, the Utah Jazz, who I thought was a really good basketball team. I mean,
yeah, that's what and they did it without Leonard. I mean,
they won 4 straight. They go down 2-0. They win 4 straight, and they're in the Western Conference Finals. They lose game 1 yesterday, but I mean, they'll have other chances.
You've got to think if he does have a torn meniscus, maybe the Clippers don't re-sign him.
He's got a lot of miles on his.
Oh, I know he does. But, and obviously there's a lot of talk of Dame Lillard going somewhere. There's been a lot of talk about Dallas keeping Porzingis and trading Luka and trying to get an incredible rate. That's what they're talking about that too. No. I don't see them trading him, but you never know. I just don't know that Cuban would do something like that. Cuban likes to have the best player in the league, so I can't imagine, him letting him go. But stranger things have happened.
Don 19. Nobody's talking about how big the loss Danny Green was. I'm guilty of that.
We mentioned it before.
I'm guilty of that. I didn't think it was going to be a big deal. I thought the kids would step up and it would be fine, but they missed Danny Green, and they have a big decision to make on Danny Green. Because he's a free agent, and his absence in the latter part of the series against the Atlanta Hawks was extremely noticeable. It threw off the whole ecosystem of the team. Guys who were used to coming off the bench had to start, and they couldn't handle it. And Danny Green is a veteran. He plays good defense, and he can hit a shot. He's not scared to shoot either, like some of the players on the team, like Ben Simmons. Troy H., SGA, which is Alexander from Oklahoma City, DeJounte Murray from the Spurs. I don't think the Thunder are giving up Alexander, but I'm 1,000% in favor of a Ben Simmons for the DeJounte Murray trade. DeJounte Murray is a good player. Nobody knows about him because he's on the Spurs and it's not a big market. But, I mean, that's a trade that I'm in favor of. I think that makes you better. As strange as that sounds, with all the potential that Ben Simmons has, I think DeJounte Murray gives you a better chance to win basketball games, especially in the postseason. Troy H., they lost their spacing when Danny Green got hurt. I agree with that. JS, check it out on YouTube. We got 35 watch on YouTube, 14 likes. Let's get those numbers up. Like, subscribe, share. A2D Radio, Sports Hounds, every Monday night, exclusively on A2Dradio.com. A2D Radio now introducing a membership program, $9.99 a month, exclusive shows, discounted merchandise, shout-outs, all kinds of stuff. Check out A2DRadio.com. You get weekly sports picks from the Money Pot as well. That's $9.99 a month. Anthony Addies, Terry Rozier. Look, anybody. I'm trading Ben for any of these guys. Now, Terry Rozier, he makes a lot of money, but he's also not very good. So I would need something else from Charlotte to make that work.
It's not like you can't get something for him. You can. He has value. I just don't know that he has value to be on a championship team. He can make a bad team good, but he can't. But he'll kill a good team trying to win a championship. I think that's what the deal is with Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons has to be on a team that likes to run. I mean that's kind of. I mean, if Mike D'Antoni was your coach, Ben Simmons would be highly effective and score a lot of points because his teams would be running all over the place. But he's going to have to be trade. If somebody who's going to want him is going to want to have somebody, going to be a running team that likes to run up and down the court. I just think Ben Simmons in a, if it's going to be a, set to set kind of thing where they're walking up and down the court, I don't know that he can be all that effective.
Bob Brain, I think you realize Ben Simmons is not a point guard. No, he's not a point guard. Robert California, Porzingis wouldn't start with Embiid. Yes, he would.
Yeah, he could be the 4. And Porzingis likes to shoot from the outside. He's a really good outside shooter.
But then you transformed a small lineup to a big lineup. Because then you got Embiid at center, you got Porzingis at the 4, and then Tobias at the 3.
You know how hard it's going to be to score against them with those two inside? I mean, everybody's going to have to make a living on the outside. You're not going to be able to get inside with those two guys, with those two monsters in there. That's a hell of a front line if that ever happens. Supposedly Luka and Porzingis can't stand each other.
I mean, Porzingis, it's a risk because Porzingis can't really seem to get along with anybody.
No, and he also is injury prone as well. So, but that's the problem with Porzingis. He's kind of a dick, according to what people are saying about him. So, I mean, I don't know. That is kind of a gamble. So, I don't know.
I mean, I'd rather have a dickhead than a guy who's just not interested in anything but banging Instagram models like Ben Simmons.
Yeah, I mean,
give me the dickhead. That's fine.
I don't question Porzingis' will to win or anything along those lines. He just seems like he's just a kind of a miserable guy. I mean, he had very hurt feelings. He was very butthurt about the Knicks fans giving him such a hard time when the Mavericks first came to New York a couple of years ago. They hurt his feelings and he was whining in the media about it. It's just like, what do you expect? What do you expect? You're sitting there, you're ripping the team. You don't want to play there, and you're giving everybody a hard time. What exactly do you expect? Especially New York fans, you know what they're like. You start criticizing their team. They're not gonna be very nice to you. That's just the way it goes.
Jay Marr, I've been on this trade Ben Simmons for 3 years, but what if we finally move him to the 4, try and trade Toby, Maxey, and Thibault for Fox and Hield? That way Ben can stay the way he is, and we have our point guard. Look, I mean, Tobias Harris, Tyrese Maxey, and Matisse Thybulle for DeAndre Fox and Buddy Hield. That's not a bad suggestion. I would do that. I love Maxey, though. But I love De'Aaron Fox, too.
What if you could get a guy like Zach Levine?
Well, he's going to be a free agent, and it doesn't look like the Bulls are interested in re-signing him. So he's going to make a lot of money from someone.
Right, but maybe you could do a sign and trade.
I'm all for it.
That's a guy. That's a guy that would kind of make me want to throw up if the Sixers got him. To be honest with you, because I think that would put them over.
I see him on your Knicks.
I mean, if he's another one, I just don't know what his deal is. I would love to see the Knicks get him. I'm trying to think of
Thibodeau.
Was he with Thibodeau when he was coaching Chicago?
He might have been really young.
Okay, because I was going to say if he was with Thibodeau when he was young. When he was younger, there may be something to that. Karl Anthony Towns too. I mean, the Knicks really could use a center that could actually score more than 6 to 8 points a game. So you could always look at him too.
Who did the Bulls trade for at the deadline?
Yeah, well,
they traded for Vucevic. That's right. They got Vucevic at the deadline. So if I'm Chicago, I'm trying to bring back Levine.
Yeah, but the question is, does he want to play there?
I don't know.
And by the way, Rob, just to let you know, the Tampa Bay Lightning have jumped out to a very quick 2-0 lead on the Islanders.
That series has been fun, and we're going to get to some baseball stuff because this substance stuff for the pitchers has become a complete and utter train wreck.
Complete fiasco, and you know what?
Rob Manfred is.
I like what Garrett Cole said.
Yeah,
and I think it should be. I think they should consider at least talking to the pitchers about it. You can still do whatever you want to do, but you know what? You've already had a really talented pitcher like Tyler Glass now who couldn't grip the ball, bugger up his arm because of that. And you know what? I mean, I don't think it's going to make all that big of a difference. I mean, if these guys can't grip the baseball, you already have rosin out there. What's the difference if they can grip the ball or not? So they put a little bit more spin on it. You know what? I never heard the hitters complaining about it. I never heard one hitter complaining that the pitchers are putting too much spin on the ball. I hear the hitters complaining more about the shift than I do putting spin on the ball. Now, if you're loading it up to make it curve, like a spitball, that's different. But I mean, to get a grip on the ball, I mean, what's the problem here? What are we talking about here? I mean, you look at it. Okay, Garrett Cole said, according to him, he said you probably gain about 300 revolutions a minute by putting that spider crap shit on your hands. He said, but you don't have to put as much stress on your arm because you can at least get a good grip on the ball and control it better. So and he says that they should at least talk. And Manfred, just being the bully that he is, won't talk, won't do anything, just does what he wants to do, regardless of whether it looks good for baseball or not.
Liberty Mel Lopez agree when the sports shows are making fun of him, it's time to go. Sixers don't want him, and now no other teams will want him.
Nah, there'll be somebody.
Jamar, Ben, and Maxey for Levert and Brogdon. Whatever. If it gets Ben Simmons out of town and I can get not even one but two players, I would just be careful about trading Maxey because I think he's a superstar.
Yeah, Faith Selleck doesn't think that the Bulls will let Levine go. As a Knicks fan, she wants Lonzo. Yeah, I mean, we all do. But again, he's a restricted free agent. I mean, if you offer him the poison contract, maybe the Pelicans let him go. But I have a very funny feeling that Williamson is going to force his way out of New Orleans. So they may not do that. I think they may bite the bullet. That's the only problem because you keep hearing out of New Orleans that Williamson doesn't want to play there. His family is dead set against him playing there. He seems to like the city. I don't know if he likes playing basketball there though.
Mike Parker, to be fair, Hinky's process was cut short and derailed. Yeah, thank God. Thank God, because we'd still be winning 10 games a year with that loser as the general manager who thinks it's Xbox and you just trade a bunch of picks and simulate seasons and win 10 games and go simulate right the free agency and the draft. And all of a sudden you're going to have a bomb squad after the 4 or 5 years of doing that. It's not how it works. It's not real life. It's not Xbox, Sam.
They also changed the way the lottery is thanks to Hinkie and that stupidity. So, even if you tank, if you have the worst record of the league, you could end up getting the third pick in the draft, which is what happened to the Knicks, and they ended up getting Barrett instead of getting Zion, or for that matter,
John Morant. Yeah.
So I mean, you know what, Hinkie was so blatant about what he did and then
And Bryce Blackwell saying teams have been tanking before the Sixers drop, not in the sense that not to the extent that the Sixers did. It was a complete joke and insulting.
Tanking guys and having them play in Europe for a couple of years so you can continue to stink, so you can keep trying to get more guys. I mean, that was what Hinkie was doing, and that's just awful. I mean, usually, if you're going to tank for a couple of years to try to get like two good players, okay, that I can understand. I mean, you know what? The San Antonio Spurs, the year David Robinson got hurt, they definitely tanked so that they could finish with the worst record and draft Tim Duncan, no question. But you know what? That was a 1-year thing, and they won 5 championships because of that. I don't see Philly winning 5 championships right now.
No.
So I mean, San Antonio could shut everybody up about that because they won 5 championships.
Correct.
So really, I mean, the problem is that the Sixers are right back to the same spot right now that they were when they started this process. And unfortunately, they had to embarrass themselves to do it. They ended up having to change the rules of the lottery, which screwed up, which hurt a lot of teams. So it just didn't make sense what they did. And you would think at this point, now that they have new management, they're gonna turn things around. They'll look like a different team. They're still gonna have Embiid, and they'll still have Harris. They'll still have Curry, but they're gonna make some moves, and hopefully for them, they can get a point guard who can score a little bit. Listen, you're gonna lose some defense trading Ben. I mean, I think everybody has to understand that you are definitely gonna lose some defense. But you know what? As long as you have Embiid playing, okay, these guys that come down the middle are still gonna have to deal with him, and when he gets into one of his bad moods, he can make it very unpleasant for somebody to drive down the lane, as we all know.
Mike Marshall, Ben for CJ McCollum. Sure, I'm all in. Ben's a bench guy right now. I totally agree. Sign and trade for Lowry. Trade Ben for CJ. Okay. I don't know who you're trading for.
I like
Kyle
the Lowry. I do like the Lowry thing because you know what? You don't have to commit a lot of money for a long time with him. Yeah, you're clearly going to be playing for trying to win the championship next year. Maybe you get 2 years out of Lowry, so he doesn't have a long shelf life. But you're also not going to make a long-term commitment that's going to kill your cap for a long time either. So that might be the smartest way to go. I understand Lowry's 35 years old. I get that. But again, you're only going to be, if you pay him for 2 years, which I think is all he's going to get anyway. He's not going to get more than 2 years, maybe 3, but most likely 2.
And then Mike Marshall wants to say this team's way better than the Iggy teams. I don't know about that. I really don't. They go to the same point in the playoffs and then lose.
No.
So how can I definitively say that this group of Sixers is better than that group of Sixers? I can't. And he says Joe and Ben got hurt in consecutive years. Like, no shit. They're always hurt. It's always something with them. They're as unreliable superstars as it gets.
Listen, when they had the best team they've had, honestly, since the last time they won a championship in '83 was when they had Butler. That was a real good team.
Because you had 4 guys, yeah.
Right, and it's a kind of a shame because Butler. It didn't matter what Ben was doing offensively at that point. Butler could pick up all the slack. He wasn't afraid to shoot, and it's for them. It was just kind of unfortunate. I think he wanted to play in Miami, and I understand. Listen, he's a businessman. I think he did it a lot for the tax write-off. And that's the one unfair advantage that these Florida teams have, and I do think that at some point that should be addressed in the salary cap because you can offer. I mean, they're not paying state income tax, which gives them a huge salary cap advantage. I mean, if you're getting paid $30 million, okay, and after the state gets done with you, you're paying $24 million in another state, okay, like say New York, for example, you're paying $23 million, okay, and in Florida you don't have to pay any state tax. $30 million is $30 million. In New York, you'd have to make $35 million to $40 million to make the same amount of money. You know what I'm saying? This is all about what you're taking home. It's that gross, you're paying taxes on that. I think some of these teams have an unfair advantage. I think you look at hockey, Tampa Bay. I mean, that's why all these guys want to play in Tampa Bay. I mean, they make it makes a huge difference. And anybody who doesn't think it matters in Miami, listen, Miami is a beautiful place to play. You've got the nice weather. They will come out. They will come out and support you if they have a winning team. And it's a fun place to live for these guys. So,
yeah, like Marshall, DeMar DeRozan doesn't shoot. Well, Ben doesn't shoot either.
GG says,
what's the difference?
Derrick Rose playing in Philly. I don't think the Knicks are going to let Derrick Rose go. I know he's a free agent, but he's not going anywhere. They're definitely going to keep him. And now Tampa Bay has scored again and now have a 3-0 lead over the Islanders. And if you look at it, okay, Tampa Bay was down 3-0 after the second period of the last game. They scored two goals and almost ended up tying up that game in the third period. And now they come out with 3 in the first period. So in the last 2 periods, they scored 5 goals against the Islanders, and they're just crashing the net and making. Oh boy, I mean, they're really coming on strong.
All right, let's get into some baseball. I've taken the Sixers. It's like depressing to talk about the Sixers. Like it really is. I mean, it's just such a train wreck. It's such a train wreck, and I don't really know how you. I don't know what you do. I don't know where you go from here.
Well, I think with the Sixers, I think they'll probably take a few days, and try to get so that the emotion clears out, cool off, take the emotion out of it, and get down to the business of trying to win a championship next year. But if I'm the Sixers, I don't overreact over the next couple of days. That doesn't do you any good. So I would hope that these guys, just calm down, wait for the dust to clear, and then try to make an intelligent decision. Because
they can't do anything. I mean, the offseason doesn't start until you got months before the offseason.
Well, but they still have trades that can be made.
I want to get into baseball because this we touched on a little bit earlier. The substances with the pitchers, it's getting to be a fiasco.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous because
Rob Manfred, Brad, has no control of baseball.
Rob Manfred's out of his mind with some of the stuff he's done.
I mean, you're giving these pitchers 10 game suspensions, and the Astros got no suspensions.
Right, for cheating, and they legitimately cheated. I mean, it's a freaking joke. And the Red Sox, nobody gets suspended there either when they cheated. I mean, come on. It's gone to such a he's really screwed up this game. And I mean, and I'm going to go to the extra innings because I hate that rule. I think that is the stupidest rule I have ever seen. I don't give a flying leap if they play 15, 16 innings. Who cares? This bullcrap where you have a ghost runner on second base. I mean, how would you like to be a relief pitcher and take a loss because there was a runner on second and no outs that you didn't even put out there? I mean, look at poor Chad Green. He's 0-4 this year, okay? And he's been an outstanding relief pitcher for the Yankees. But, they get up there, especially on the road, Rob. These home teams, they get up there. If you don't happen to score in the top of the inning, they bunt them over. They bunt them to third, and then no matter what they do, they're screwed. And it's been going on and on and on and on. And, of course, it would help if the Yankee relievers knew how to field. That might help a little bit. But
relief pitchers, I mean, they're one-trick ponies. They usually have 1, maybe 2 pitches, and they're
right.
They're not starters for a reason. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, no, they can pitch. They can pitch to 2 to 3 innings, some of them, and be pretty effective. But most of them are one inning guys, and they're not good fielders.
But Brad, my thing with the foreign substances with the pitchers, am I crazy, or for the last 25 years, from like 1990 to whatever 2005, 15, 20 years, what were all the hitters in baseball doing?
Yeah, they were doing steroids, but that was okay.
But that's fine. Now the pitchers, putting the pitchers at an extreme disadvantage. You got Barry Bonds, whose head grew 18 sizes. He's in the top 5 of MVP every year. He's got a 600 on base percentage. He's hitting 73 home runs a year. But the second the pitchers figure out a little way to get a little edge on the hitters, it's
yeah. But you're talking about their safety.
10
too,
games here, 10 games there. It's ridiculous.
Well, what about their safety? You know, I mean, you don't want these guys to get. Pitchers already have enough trouble staying healthy. You know, I mean,
what do you mean by health? Because Glass now got hurt, and he's blaming the fact that he couldn't use a foreign substance.
Yeah, well,
you're allowed to use the rosin.
It's not, yeah, but it's not just that, Rob. It's you know, if you can't grip the ball the way you want to grip it, okay, then you have to put more emphasis into throwing the ball, okay, and you could hurt your shoulder. You could pull a hamstring. I mean, there's so many things that can go wrong with a pitcher. They're very delicate, you know, and it's just, to me, it just seems like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Leave it the hell alone. And Manfred just doesn't stop trying to change baseball. Leave it alone. It's been a great game for over 100 years without you. Okay, as soon as you come in, all the bullshit starts. We have 7-inning double headers. I mean, which is, I mean, if they're gonna just do it because of the COVID, and as soon as the COVID thing is over, they're going to stop it, then okay. You know what? Fine. But you know what? Here's the problem with the 7-inning games. Number one, okay, if a pitcher pitches 7 innings, all of a sudden it's a complete game. But under Manfred, if you pitch a no-hitter in 7 innings, that doesn't count as a no-hitter. I mean, you can't have it both ways. But I guess you can. But you know what I'm saying. It's ridiculous. Some of these rules, and this guy does not know what he's doing. He's clueless. He just comes up with all this stuff. I just can't imagine some of the other stupidity that's going to be coming up. You know, I mean,
I don't think you're ever going to see 9-inning doubleheaders again.
Well, that's a shame, because you know what, they're cheapening the game. You know, baseball is not meant to be. Major League Baseball is a 9-inning game, not a 7-inning game. Okay, when you make it a 7-inning game, okay, it's not a bullpen game. It's just starting pitchers are going to go 6. A lot of starting pitchers are going to throw complete games. Okay, so I mean, if you're going to do that, then it just totally changes the complexion of the game. You know, personally, if you're asking me if I go to the game, I hate that, because to me, I feel like I'm getting ripped off because I'm losing 2 innings. If I'm watching it on TV, you know, then I don't mind it as much, because, you know, I'm only going to spend, you know, a smaller amount of time watching the game. You know what I'm saying? But as a fan, if I'm at a 7-inning game, it's like you feel like you just got there and the game's going to be over. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I go to a game, I like 3-hour games. That's what I want to see. You know, I don't want to be out there for an hour and a half to 2 hours. You know, if I'm gonna spend all that money to go out there and watch the game, damn, let me be out. I want to make a day out of it, make a night out of it. You know, and spend 3 hours at the ballpark. You know, have something to eat. You know, hang around and bullshit with my buddies and that kind of thing. What it makes no sense to me. That's just ridiculous.
And you look at the grand scheme. I mean, you look at the Phillies in the East. They're 4 games back. They're back to 1 game under 500. Just when I thought they were going to turn a corner.
By the way, the Mets won the first game of the doubleheader, and
they did. They beat the Braves. I don't understand the Braves at all. They have so much talent there, but they can't seem to get it together.
DeGrom pitched 5 innings, and of course he gave up no runs because he's DeGrom, and he never gives up any runs, and he left with a 4-0 lead after 5 innings. I mean, that's another example of how horrible these doubleheaders are. I mean, if Jake DeGrom is starting one of the games in a doubleheader and it's a 7-inning game, you have no chance to win that game. No chance.
No, the Braves are fortunate they even got a look at the Mets bullpen, which isn't the best.
Yeah, but it's not as bad as it was last year, though. That's for sure.
No, and then I don't know, because we got the trade deadline coming across, and like we're into June, we're almost into July here. So
Yeah,
like
the
you
trade
kind
deadline
of
is the end of July.
There's going
to be some guys out there that both your Phillies and my Yankees can certainly pick. I think one guy that both our teams are going to be looking at and possibly trying to get is Starling Marte, who's a center fielder.
I mean, the Phillies don't have the horses to get a guy like Starling Marte.
Yeah, but he'd be a rental, so it won't be. You won't have to give up all that much for him. You know, I mean that's the thing. If it was for 2 years, if he was signed for next year, you'd be giving up a lot more. But just for a rental, I don't know that you're going to have to probably give up one of your top minor league players. But you guys seem to have a little pipeline with them, so maybe you might want to make that move. I know the Yankees would definitely like to have him out there because some of these games lately they've been putting Aaron Judge in center field. Now, listen, Aaron Judge as a center fielder is pretty damn good. I mean, he made some plays this weekend in center field that were just ridiculous. So obviously he can play the position, but you know, as injury prone as he is, do we really want to see him in center field? Plus, you know, he's got that incredible arm. Why would you want him in center field? Other than the fact that the Yankees, if he plays right field, then you've got to put Gardner and Clint Frazier in at the same time, or Gardner and Andujar, because nobody else can play center field. So, I mean, I think that's something that the Yankees are definitely going to be looking at. I would think the Phillies would be too, because you know,
I'm all for it if you can get it done. Look, I'm not married to anybody in this minor league system for the Phillies. So if you can get me a guy like Starling Marte, and then I can re-sign him after the season, which I think is feasible because McCutchen's going to come off the books and you might have some money to play with, and you're a big market, and Dave Dombrowski didn't come here to be passive. He came here to be aggressive.
No, I think, honestly, I think it's going to be between you guys and us for Starling Marte. I think he's the guy.
I think the Phillies are more in. I think that the Phillies are going to be more in like the Robbie Grossman market, who I've mentioned. I think I mention him every week for the Tigers, having a terrific season.
Listen, I like Robbie Grossman too, but he's okay. I mean, he's not a bad player, but I mean, does he really make that big of a? Is he that big of a?
No, he's not. No, he's not. But you're going to give up far less. The Phillies don't have farm system. They don't have farm systems. They're not. It's not a good farm system.
I'm sure there's a couple of guys in their lower farm system. They may not have any guys that they can bring up right away, but I'm sure if you go like into Double-A or Single-A, they probably have a couple of nice, juicy prospects down there. You know, listen, one thing about Derek Jeter that I have to give him credit for, he's found some pretty good young players. I mean, it's only a matter of time before they get enough experience and start being a pretty good team. I kind of like some of the players they've got.
I love Jazz Chisholm.
Yeah, I like him too. He's really a good player. When he learns to stop striking out so much and stop trying to hit home runs all the time, he's going to be an unbelievable player because he's got speed, he's got some power, but he just has to stop striking out so much.
And then, you know, you have Max Scherzer down in Washington.
I don't think he's going anywhere, quite honestly. I mean, listen, would I love to see him as a Yankee? Hell yeah. Would it kill me to see him as a Red Sox? Yeah. Would it kill me if he somehow landed with the Mets? Hell yeah. I would really be annoyed if he ended up with the Phillies. I don't think that would happen because I don't think Washington would never trade with the Phillies after they got Bryce Harper.
And Middleton would never take on that money.
Well, he's going to be a free agent after the season.
So it's a rental.
Scherzer is a rental, yeah.
Yeah, I see him in Houston.
Yeah, that would be another disaster. I mean, I've also heard
Houston's
that,
playing really well right now.
Yes,
I have the
they
game
are.
on MLB Network.
They're playing Baltimore, right?
Yeah, they're up 5-0. Someone just hit a three-run dinger to go up 5-0. They're playing really good baseball.
Yes, they are.
Correa's hitting the ball. Altuve's back to his old self. He's a
Well,
total best.
the young pitchers have been tremendous. I know I have a couple of them on my fantasy team. Framber Valdez and Luis Garcia have been lights out for
I got Luis Garcia on a couple of teams as well.
Yeah, Luis Garcia has been real good. So, I mean, they've been playing real well. Yeah, we got to see the Yankees. We got to see the Oakland A's this weekend, and the Oakland A's are a good ball club, but they do have issues in the bullpen. That team does need to do something about the bullpen because that bullpen, they're not going to beat Houston with that bullpen.
Yeah, I thought Houston, and I don't know. Maybe you can answer this as an American League fan. Is Justin Verlander going to pitch this year?
I can't. Maybe he might be the closer.
Yeah.
Maybe an inning at a time. Maybe he goes at an inning at a time.
I mean, I think Houston's the favorites right now in the
American League. Right now in the American League, I think right now they're the best team in the American League. Now, obviously, that can change. I don't know that they're going to represent the American League in the World Series. I couldn't tell you that, but right now the way they're playing, they look like. Now we'll see, because you know what, it's a long season. We'll see how Framber Valdez pitches for the whole season. We'll see if Luis Garcia continues to pitch great. We'll see if what's his name, Kevin, Zach Greinke, if he can last the whole season and pitch well. I mean, they have their question marks too. They're certainly not allowed. Odorizzi has not shown anything at all. So there's always the possibility that team's pitching could blow up by the end of the season.
He's pitching right now, Odorizzi. I mean, he's not doing great. He's got 27 pitches. That's not that bad. 27 pitches in the third. He's got a 5-0 lead. So
yeah, but he's playing Baltimore. I mean, Baltimore stinks. Baltimore might be the worst team in baseball right now.
No, Arizona's the worst team in baseball. They're a train wreck.
Yeah, and you got to wonder with them. They're going to be making some moves. They basically, the problem with them is they hung on to their players too long. I mean, I heard that they wanted to trade David Peralta, but David Peralta's like 34 years old now. I mean, he's old. He's old, and he's had a lot of injuries, and he's just not that good anymore. I mean, the only one that they have that really they could trade and get a lot for is maybe Marte.
Escobar's a pretty good player.
Yeah, Ketel Marte is really good.
He is.
Escobar is good too, but I mean, he's only hitting 240. So I mean, it's not like
his slugging percentage is through the roof. I mean, he's
got
home runs and 10 doubles and
their pitching though.
Mashes.
Their pitching has really been a problem, and now Madison Bumgarner is God knows when he's going to be back. I mean, I heard he just started playing catch again, but I mean, if he's just starting to play catch as a starting pitcher, I mean, it's going to take him at least 2 months before he's on the mound again. Because doesn't he have to play catch and then get on the mound?
Get stretched out.
Yeah, he has to get on the mound. Then he has to pitch a simulated game. Then and after he pitches a couple of simulated games, then he's going to have to go to the minors and go on some rehab assignments. And it'll take once he goes to the minors to do rehab, he's going to have to pitch at least a month there to get stretched out. So I mean, that team is the biggest mess right now. You're right, in baseball.
Brad, how about the Cubs?
Yeah, they are the surprise of the National League. I mean, I didn't see them going anywhere.
They're 40 and 32.
Yeah,
they're tied for first place.
Craig Kimbrell's come back. I mean, he's all of a sudden he's back to being one of the top relievers in the league again, which we definitely, I don't think anybody saw that coming. And Baez has been okay. I mean, they're hitting. I just see them as a team that's going to get knocked out in the first round again, because every time they have a big spot, they don't hit. They're kind of like the Yankees have been this year.
I could see Scherzer going there.
Yeah, I could, but I don't see Scherzer. Honestly, I don't see Scherzer going anywhere. I think Scherzer loves it in Washington. I don't think he wants to go anywhere, and I think he's pretty much resigned to the fact that he won his championship in Washington, and he probably wants to stay there. I mean, his family is there. He owns a house down there. He's happy, and he's 39 years old. How much longer is he going to pitch? I think he probably would sign maybe a 2-year contract with Washington.
He's still really good.
I know, but he could sign a contract with them. Retire as a National. Go to the Hall of Fame wearing a Nationals hat. And I think that the owners want to keep him there, and I think they'll pay him whatever he wants to get paid at this point. And by the way, Washington's not out of it right now as far as trying to win the division.
No, the East is terrible.
Yeah, I mean, if they can get themselves one really good stick to go with what they've got now. I mean, what are they, like 2 games under 500 now? Something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. I know I was looking.
I'll bring it up right here because the East has been a total train wreck.
Yeah, other than Miami, I think every team is pretty much in it.
What about a guy like Kyle Gibson and Mike Miners of the world?
Oh, Kyle Gibson is how long is he signed for?
I don't know. I'm just spitballing because the Rangers.
Listen, the Range. I don't think the Rangers are going to give him up so easily. I mean, they haven't had a pitcher like him in a long time. I mean, he's really good. I mean, he's an ace.
The Nationals are 3 games under 500. The Braves are 4 games under 500. The Phillies are 1 game under 500.
Yeah, the Nationals are not out of it. And the Mets I think are
37 and 29. What's that? 8 games over 500.
Okay, and they haven't really pulled away. As long as the Nationals stay within 5 games, 5-6 games, I can't see them just trading away Scherzer. I think there's a very good chance that Scherzer's going to stay, that he'll re-sign with them. I think I really, from what I've read, he loves it there and really doesn't want to leave. According to MLB rumors, everything they've reported about Max Scherzer seems to indicate that the Warner family loves him. He loves them. He wants to retire a National, so I don't know that they're going to trade him. I mean, I would love to get him if I'm the Yankees. Oh my God! I mean, he would make a world of difference to the team. But I mean, I don't think they're going to trade him. I don't think they'll trade him to Houston.
Yeah, but maybe they could do like a Chapman thing. Maybe they do it. Maybe they say, "Hey, we love you. We want to keep you. Approve this trade so we can get younger. Go there as a rental.
Yeah,
and then come back to Washington.
Yeah, here's your contract that you can sign as soon as the season's over, and you can come right back here and you can finish. Yeah, I mean that could happen. I mean, it's funny because most teams, for whatever reason, don't do stuff like that, and I could never understand why.
It could be someone could cry foul, and there could be an investigation, and who knows what Manfred would do.
Yeah, but you can't prove that.
You can't.
How you gonna prove it?
I'm just saying.
I know. But
if Max Scherzer gets traded, that's going to drastically change the landscape of.
Well, if he gets traded to Houston,
baseball.
It's over. I would tell you right now, if he gets traded to Houston, it's over. I mean, they're not.
And it looks like the wild card. The wild card is going to be a combination of. Well, no, you got the Central teams that are the second place in the Central that's 1 game back, but.
Yeah, but let's be honest. LA and San Diego are probably going to be, and the Giants are probably going to be first, second, and third. Are probably all going to make the playoffs. So if that's the case, you got to win the division. Now, maybe the Giants after the All-Star break they do the fade. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they do, and maybe they don't. Certainly seems like every time you think that the wheels are gonna come off with them. They come back and then they play well. I mean, they went to Washington and they get swept, and then they come back home and they get the job done against the Phillies. So I mean, who knows with them?
I mean, if Cueto keeps pitching like this, and Gaussman has been terrific, and DeScalfani's been terrific,
Yeah, you know what? I didn't see that coming
Alex,
with Gofani. I'll tell you. I'll tell you that. I mean, Gosman, I kind of expected that he would come back and be good because he was very good with Baltimore for all those years, and then I don't know what happened to him, but maybe it was just the curse of the Orioles, and when he went to the Braves, he was still suffering from Oriolitis, but he goes out to San Francisco in sort of a pitcher's ballpark, and now he's pitching lights out. So, a lot of times changing leagues helps too because a lot of these guys haven't seen that much of them, so that could have helped too.
and then you got a big one, Dodgers and Padres. They start a series tonight. I think it's a 3-gamer in San Diego.
That's a big series. Now, is Tatis going to be playing, or is he going to be out for a while?
Let me see. See if they have lineups out yet.
Because I didn't see anywhere where they put him on the DL. So
no, he's not. I didn't get an alert for that. The San Diego lineup: Fernando Tatis Jr. is batting second.
Okay, so then he's playing then. So LA doesn't.
Bam, Tatis, Cronenworth, Machado, Myers, Grisham, Kim, Caratini, Darvish.
That is some lineup.
And then you have the Dodgers trotting out Betts, Gavin Lux, Justin Turner, Will Smith, Max Beatty, Chris Taylor, Zach McKinstry, and Zach Rex. I'm not really sure who that is, but the Dodgers, they're a little shy. I love the Padres in this game tonight with Darvish on the mound. I bet on them.
Yeah,
I think the Padres are going to take care of business tonight with Darvish on the mound. That's a free play. That's a free play from the Sports Hounds right there.
That's a pretty solid play.
Take the Padres tonight because there is no Max Muncy in the lineup.
Or Bellinger.
For the Dodgers, and Cody Bellinger not in the lineup as well. Obviously, Seager is still out with the busted hand. Julio,
you know who I could see on the Dodgers really starting to step it up and make his mark there is Zach McKinstry. He started like a house on fire and then he got hurt, so we'll have to see about him. But he's back now.
Young guy.
Yep.
Dodgers, man, they
get these. They're scouts.
It's always someone coming in. It's the next guy up. The next guy's better than the next. You have Lux, then you have McKinstry, you have Walker Buehler. They just churn them out.
And then they screw the American League East up by trading Wander Franco to the Rays. Thank you. And by the way, if anybody hasn't heard, he's going to be coming up, and his first game will be Tuesday. And just in case anybody doesn't know, the man hit 423 in the minor leagues. 423.
What was that trade?
That was the Blake Snell trade. No, that wasn't the Blake Snell trade.
No.
He traded. He was in the Dodgers farm system, wasn't he?
Wander Franco.
Yeah, was he on the Dodgers? Was he on the Dodgers or was it? No, he was with San Diego. He was in the San Diego farm system. He was part of the Blake Snell trade, I believe.
I think he's been.
Yeah, he's only 20 years old. I think he was part of that Blake Snell trade. And Blake Snell, by the way, has not been very good this year.
Oh, he's not.
He's not had a good year. For whatever reason, it seems with Blake Snell that he has a good year and then a bad year and then a good year and a bad year. So I guess next year
Wander Franco was not in the trade.
He wasn't. So then where did he come from? Did the Rays draft him?
Franco, I guess the Rays picked him.
Jeez. Tell you what, that team does a great job for
but he's going to be a stud, and he's going to be on someone else's team soon because the Rays aren't going to pay him.
Well, he'll be there for 5 years. But that'll be 5 years of torture if you're a Yankee fan or a Red Sox fan or an Oriole fan or a Blue Jay fan.
What do you make of the Blue Jays there? I thought they were going to have a good team, but they're sitting at 35-35, and they're in danger of falling out of contention.
Well,
the American League is very competitive.
Right, they've been wiped out with injuries. I mean, it's their whole bullpen. Their whole bullpen's is out. I mean, they've got guys in the bullpen that weren't even on the team at the beginning of the season. So, I mean, at the beginning of the season, they had this guy Merriweather was supposed to be their closer, and don't forget they also had signed your guy from the Phillies. What the heck was his name? Help me out here.
Well, they had Ken Giles.
Giles, yeah, he was supposed to be the closer, and he got hurt, and he got
hurt. They brought in Yates from San Diego, and he got hurt again.
And then they, as I said, they had some guys, and they all got hurt. I mean, it's unbelievable how many injuries that team's had.
I mean, you just look at their lineup, Brad, and it's just like,
oh, it's a who's who. It's a who's who. I mean, between Biggio and Guerrero and Bichette.
Biggio hasn't even been hitting. He's just starting to hit now because he's had his injury problems.
But you know what a good player he is, though. I mean, we all know.
I've held on to him through thick and thin on my fantasy team, so hopefully this is.
I wouldn't have moved him either. I would have to think. Listen, if I did that, I would have let Austin Meadows go, and I hung on to him through his 180 until the beginning of June. Actually, once they started playing the Yankees again, he straightened everything out, which is typical because that always seems to happen.
All right, we got to get out of here. Flight Zone's coming up next. Thank you to everyone who liked, subscribed, and shared the show. Thank you for our sponsors, Allen Foy Realty, Philly Drinkers, Sunrise Detox, Body Check Wellness, and, of course, our doc making yours too, Dr. Paul Vidal. He's Brad. I'm Rob. Thank you to Frank for producing. Until next Monday, peace out, everybody.